The Smoker starter deck is here. Not sure where to start? Let's take a look at a deck list.
本命は元締めの祭りやフェスタ海王類の海難事故で死んだはずのロジャー時代の大物海賊おまけにこいつもだ
The new Smoker starter deck is here, which gasses up this old leader. This is the Smoker leader from OP08.5. He's a black leader with 5,000 power and 5 starting life. And for 1 Dawn attached, activate main once per turn. You give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. Then, if there's a character with a cost of 0, this leader gains 1,000 power during this turn. So he has the potential to buff himself up to 7,000 if you're able to reduce a character down to 0 before KOing it. Very, very strong effect. And a pretty fun card indeed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list here. Starting with the 2Ks, we're going to go ahead and take a look at 4 Asuras. This is from the starter deck, so if you've got the starter deck, you've already got your playset. But this is just a great card. -2 for 1 Dawn on any character, and 2K as well. Great, absolute great target, Navy searchable, absolute must-have, and literally basically any black Navy package deck. Next, we've got the Tashigis. So this is just another searchable 2K. Nice that it's a 3 cost, which means I can get it back from with the Rebecca blocker as well to buy back a 2K. Typically aren't going to be playing this card out just because the effect of my activate main, rest this card, and give something -2 isn't always the most effective in most situations. So this is mostly just going to be a 2K that you can buy back with Rebecca. And then we've got 2 more 2Ks here. We've got the T-Bone. T-Bone is another Navy searchable 2K, another one you can get back with Rebecca. And if you need to, you can play him out and he will KO 1 character with a cost of 2 or less. And it's a 5K beater as well if you really need it to be. Typically, usually just going to be a 2K counter unless it's an emergency. Next, let's look at some of the utility package here. We've got 4 of the brand new. This is also in the starter deck. That you can run here. This is our Navy Searcher. So look at the top 3, add a Navy type card to your hand, and then discard or trash the rest. So it's also going to fill up your trash for plays like Gecko Moria, which if you're not running Gecko Moria at this point, that's pretty much a black deck staple at this point. But really great card. Lets us filter for some of our searchable targets, some of our cost reduction, some of our removal, and really great. Also finding 2Ks if you really need to find a 2K. Next up, we've got a new card from the starter deck here. This is the Sengoku. Sengoku is a 1 cost 1,000 with 1K counter. On play, I can trash 2 cards that are black and navy from your hand. And if you do, and your leader is a navy type, you can draw 3 cards. So this is a great cycling outlet. That's why we're running 4 of them here, because this will allow you to get some of those non-counter navy cards out of your hand that maybe you want to bring back with Gecko Moria, and then let you draw some new cards. So there's a lot of cycling in this deck, which is pretty awesome for the Navy Black package. Next, we're going to take a look at our blocker suite here. We've got 2 sets of blockers, starting off first with the Rebecca here. This is a staple. If you're playing black and not playing Rebecca, then your deck either doesn't have room or you're doing something different. But Rebecca, fantastic card here. 4 cost, 0 power, 1K counter. It's a blocker. On play, lets you grab a black character card with a cost of 3 to 7 other than Rebecca from your trash to your hand, allowing you to buy back a 2K or something like some other threat. And then you can play up to 1 character card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand rested, so also puts a body on the board. And we have a few great targets for this that we'll go over later in this deck list. Then finally, we were running 2 Borsalinos here. Borsalino losing a little bit of value now that there's a lot more trashing in the game, as trash is one way to get around the KO abilities. But Borsalino is pretty neat, and the fact that he's a 4 cost 5,000 power with a 1K counter blocker. And then on your opponent's turn, this card gains plus 1,000 power and can't be KO'd by your opponent's effects. So again, if your opponent isn't running any trash effects, which gets around these KO abilities, this is just a 6K blocker on your opponent's turn. Really great card, especially in the black matchups. Next, let's kind of look at some of our cost reduction here. We're running 3 of the Hina. This is Hina from starter deck number 6. And this is just a great card. 3 cost 5K, no counter, but on play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost this turn. So a great way to allow you to do the math to reduce characters to a specific number threshold to allow you to KO them. This is also a target off of Rebecca that you can put into play since Hina is a 3 cost. Then we're running 3 of the Kuzans. Kuzan is another great cost reducer. 4 cost, 5,000 power, no counter, but on play draw 1 card. So he does replenish your hand. He does replace himself. And then when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So this is a repeatable cost reduction if your opponent doesn't decide to deal with it. Typically, your opponent will try to kill this after you swing with it, but it does allow you to get a swing in and also reduce some cost to allow you to KO or trash some things. Speaking of trashing, let's look at the KO and trash package here. This is the new card from starter deck, the Smoker starter deck. This is Tashigi. Tashigi's a 5 cost, 6,000 power with a 1k counter. On play, if your leader is Smoker, you give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost this turn, and then activate main once per turn. If this character was played on this turn, trash up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So on play in the Smoker deck, you can play her out for 5, and then immediately be able to trash a 4 cost, which kind of fits in with Borsalino. So this is a good counterplay to Borsalino if your opponent's running Borsalinos. Additionally, if you're at 6 Dawn or more, you can attach 1 Dawn to your leader. Use this effect to -4 on a 5 cost, and then use your leader's effect to -1 more. It then procs your leader's ability because there is a character with 0 cost, allowing your leader to be a 7k leader for that turn, and then also trash that on Tashigi. Since it is an activate main, it doesn't happen immediately, so you can kind of do a few things in between before you activate her ability. Fantastic card. Then we've got a little bit of a split here. I'm trying something a little bit different. Obviously, as you build this deck at home, be mindful of the ratios here and go ahead and try something that works a little bit better with what you're trying to do with the deck. But I'm actually running a split here of 2 Kobe's and 2 Brook. Kobe here is in the starter deck. This is a 3 cost, 4,000 power with a 1k counter. On play, you can trash 1 card from your hand and KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. I run this card because it's a 1k counter, but also Navy searchable. But the best part about it is something you can bring back with Rebecca. So a great potential play into like Doflamingo, being able to play a Rebecca blocker, attach 1 to lead, minus something, and then KO a 3 or less because you can turn a 4 cost into a 3. Pretty great effect. You can make a big splashy play with Gecko Moria as well to potentially KO a like 5 to 6 cost minimum, which is pretty great once you're at 9 to 10 Dawn. Then we're also playing Brook here. Brook is a great staple in black decks. 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1k counter on play and when attacking. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So this is a repeatable effect. Happens when you play it, happens when you attack with it. Just a big threat here. Works with Rebecca as well because it's another 3 cost we can put into play. Just another cost reduction as well as a way to KO some things. Then let's move on to the top end of the deck. Doflamingo's a menace. So we need to play a card that's pretty good against Doflamingo, especially when you have a leader that can minus cost, and that is Jack here. We're running 3 of the Jack. Jack is a 7 cost, 8,000 power, no counter, but this character gains +4 cost, so he's always an 11 cost when he's on the field, so he's really hard to kill from other black decks. They really have to spend a lot of resources to get rid of him. And then activate main, rest this character, draw a card, then trash a card, so it allows you to cycle some cards in your deck, and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. Next, we've got 1 of copy of Isho. He works out in those matchups where you need a little bit of extra minusing and also a little bit of hand disruption. So going against like a Nell, this might be a pretty decent play against Doflamingo. Doflamingo typically has a pretty high hand size, and attaching 1 Dawn to this does reduce all of your opponent's characters' cost by -3, which is pretty great. 8 cost, 9,000 power, no counter. Dawn ×1 on your turn, give all of your opponent's characters -3 cost, and then on play, if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, trash 2 cards from their hand. Really great effect, and we're running just 1 of those because it is searchable in this deck. Then finally, the last boss monster is the predictable boss monster. It's Gecko Moria. If you don't know what Gecko Moria does at this point, then honestly, I'm sorry to explain this card to you. This is an 8 cost, 9,000 power. On play, choose up to 1 character card with a cost of 4 or less, and up to 1 character card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. Play one card, and then play the other rested. So he's able to buy back 2 bodies, 1 of 4 cost and 1 of 2 cost. Really degenerative combo in this deck is going into Rebecca. Rebecca buying something back and putting out something else into play, and then playing something like a Suru, a brand new, or the Sengoku now to refill your hand, get you some more resources as well as minus some things. So pretty great in this deck as well. Then to round out the deck, we obviously need some more cost reduction, and what better cost reduction than Ice Age? This is a 1 cost event from OP08.5. It's also in the starter deck, and there are 4 of them that we're going to be running here. 1 cost, give up to one of your opponent's characters -5 cost during this turn. Also runs a trigger, also has a trigger. I think it's literally the only card in our deck that has a trigger of KOing an opponent's character of a cost of 3 or less. Fantastic card, allows you to do a lot of combos with being able to trash specific high cost characters with either a Gecko Morio play or a Tashigi play. Just with Tashigi, an Ice Age, and the leader ability alone, you can trash a 10 cost, which is pretty great. With that in mind, this is the deck. Obviously, some of these ratios are a little tweaked. I'm not running 4s of some of these, so if you want to try out this build, definitely give it a try. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried out this build, or if you have some different adjustments that maybe you like to play when you play this deck. With that in mind, go ahead and give this a try in your next locals, and we'll see you next time.